Skylar Neese disappeared from her Star City home in July 2012.
A teenage girl is stabbed to death, and the two people charged are her two best friends.
It was such a shocking and a scandalous kind of case.
This was diabolical.
Would you guys rather suffocate or get shot?
Best friends from hell. It's mind-boggling. The police were just as shocked as we were.
No one was expecting anything like that.
They stood over her body and watched her die.
She killed my daughter.
Pure evil.
July 6th, 2012. A security camera captures a chilling moment. A teenage girl slips quietly from her window, stepping unknowingly toward a deadly trap. She believes she's meeting friends. She believes she's safe. But tonight, friendship will turn to betrayal, trust will shatter, and a horrifying secret will linger beneath the shadows. This is the chilling story of Skylar Neese, a teenager whose closest friends became her killers, a case that shocked a nation, changed laws, and revealed just how dark the bonds of friendship can become.
Every crime has a story. Some are solved, some vanish forever. But what is the truth? Now let's shed light on what's been lost in the dark.
Hey, gorgeous.
Skylar Neese was born on February 10, 1996, in Morgantown, West Virginia, a small, tight-knit community known for its quiet streets and neighborly charm. She was the only child of Mary and Dave Neese, a couple who deeply cherished their daughter. Skylar grew up as a lively and responsible girl, known for her bright smile, quick wit, and determination. At University High School, Skylar excelled academically. Her teachers described her as smart, ambitious, and notably driven. She dreamt of one day becoming a criminal defense lawyer. Balancing school with part-time work at a local Wendy's restaurant, Skylar demonstrated maturity beyond her years. Friends and family admired her responsible nature, knowing she always aimed high and worked hard to achieve her goals. Despite her busy schedule, Skylar maintained an active social life. She cherished her friendships deeply, especially her long-standing relationship with Shalia Eddy, whom she'd known since elementary school. When Shalia moved to Morgantown during their freshman year, the two became inseparable. Soon after, Rachel Schoaf joined their circle, completing what seemed like an unbreakable trio. The three friends quickly became known around their school as the Three Musketeers, a bond that seemed solid and genuine, at least from the outside. But beneath the surface, the friendship began to change. Small tensions turned into hidden resentments. Skylar started feeling increasingly alienated. Social media became her outlet for frustration, often tweeting subtle hints of disappointment or distrust toward her closest friends. On July 5, 2012, just one day before her disappearance, Skylar tweeted cryptically, "Sick of being at home. Thanks, friends, love hanging out with you too." It was a brief yet telling glimpse into the turmoil that Skylar was experiencing. Despite these tensions, no one could foresee how tragically the situation would escalate. Skylar's parents, Mary and Dave, saw their daughter as just navigating typical teenage drama. They couldn't have known these seemingly ordinary teenage conflicts would soon explode into a chilling nightmare, forever altering their lives and shaking their quiet community to its core. Shalia Eddy and Rachel Schoaf, two seemingly ordinary teenage girls, shared a friendship with Skylar that initially appeared innocent and typical. Shalia, charismatic and popular, had known Skylar for nearly a decade. After moving closer, their bond grew stronger, making them virtually inseparable. Rachel, a quiet and well-mannered student from a deeply religious household, joined their friendship later, adding a new dynamic to the group. However, the trio's closeness masked darker undercurrents. Although Shalia and Rachel never admitted it, rumors suggest that their bond had evolved into a secret romantic relationship, one they were desperate to keep hidden, especially from Skylar. Unbeknownst to her, simply knowing about this alleged secret may have marked Skylar as a threat in their eyes. What appeared to others as typical teenage drama was, in reality, something far more sinister brewing beneath the surface. Rachel and Shalia's once friendly feelings toward Skylar turned into resentment, suspicion, and eventually cold, calculated hostility. Social media again revealed early signs of trouble. Skylar's tweets hinted at betrayal and broken trust. Behind closed doors, Rachel and Shalia began quietly discussing a horrifying plan. They decided to eliminate Skylar permanently, believing it was the only way to protect their secret relationship. They began meticulously planning the murder during casual conversations and even exchanged chilling messages, treating the act as if it were a minor inconvenience rather than the taking of a human life. Friends and classmates later recalled subtle signs, a whispered conversation in class, odd silences, strange tension. But at the time, no one could imagine the magnitude of their plans. Teachers and parents saw typical teenage behavior, completely unaware of the dark intent hidden beneath innocent appearances. As the warm summer evening of July 5 turned into the early hours of July 6, 2012, Skylar Neese prepared to leave her family's apartment in Star City, West Virginia, completely unaware of the tragic fate awaiting her. This night, meticulously planned by Rachel Schoaf and Shalia Eddy, would alter countless lives forever.
Sheila, come here.
Shalia Eddy, charismatic and confident, had managed to persuade Skylar to sneak out for a casual nighttime drive, something the girls had done countless times before. Yet this night was drastically different. In the trunk of Shalia's car lay an assortment of chilling items, 2 kitchen knives, bleach, towels, and clean clothes, tools to carry out a horrifying act and then erase any evidence. Rachel Schoaf, quieter but equally complicit, waited anxiously. The two had spent months carefully planning the details of this gruesome act, rehearsing conversations. This murder wasn't spontaneous. It was premeditated, precise, and shockingly emotionless. At exactly 12:30 a.m., Skylar climbed silently from her bedroom window, leaving behind her belongings, clearly intending a quick return home. She met her friends outside, unknowingly stepping into a carefully orchestrated trap. Shalia drove them toward Brave, Pennsylvania, to a remote wooded area, an isolated spot they had visited together before. The secluded nature of the location was deliberate, ensuring no witnesses or disturbances. After arriving at the isolated location, the 3 girls exited the car, walking casually into the dark woods under the pretense of smoking marijuana together. Rachel and Shalia claimed that they had forgotten to bring a lighter with them. Skylar said she would go to the car to retrieve a lighter. After turning her back to them, Shalia and Rachel exchanged glance and counted aloud, 1, 2, 3, before simultaneously lunging at Skylar with knives drawn. Shocked and horrified, Skylar tried desperately to escape, but the betrayal by her 2 closest friends had left her defenseless and vulnerable. Skylar fought bravely for her life, attempting to wrestle the knives away and even managing to wound Rachel during the violent struggle. But the brutality of the attack was relentless and overwhelming. Reports would later reveal Skylar sustained more than 50 stab wounds, a horrifying testament to the savage nature of the attack. Once Skylar was lifeless, Rachel and Shalia immediately moved to hide their crime. They attempted to bury Skylar, but the rocky terrain hindered their efforts. Panicking slightly, they instead concealed her body beneath brush, leaves, and debris. Meticulous in their cleanup, they changed into fresh clothing, wiped down surfaces, and used bleach and cleaning products to erase physical traces of the murder. Emotionlessly, as if completing a mundane task, the 2 girls returned to their car and drove away, leaving Skylar's body hidden in the darkness, hoping never to be found. On the morning of July 6, Skylar's parents, Mary and Dave Neese, discovered their daughter's absence. Initially assuming Skylar had left for work or was with friends, their mild concern soon grew into a frantic panic when Wendy's confirmed Skylar never showed up for her shift.
Long County 911, do you have an emergency?
I have a 16-year-old daughter who apparently snuck out of her room last night. She has not been home, hasn't went to work, can't get a hold of her from any of her friends. I am scared to death.
Has she done this before?
No.
The Neeses immediately contacted police, yet initial responses were frustratingly indifferent. Authorities assumed Skylar had run away voluntarily and dismissed the urgency required for a missing teenager. Crucially, no Amber Alert was issued, as the circumstances didn't fit the rigid criteria for abduction warnings at the time. Determined to find their daughter, Mary and Dave began a tireless campaign, handing out flyers, organizing searches, and pleading through local media and social media platforms for any information.
The Star City Police are still looking for a missing 16-year-old.
We love you.
come home as soon as you can, baby. Honey, if you're scared, don't be scared. You're not in trouble. We need to talk, and that's all, honey. Just come home.
Ironically, Rachel and Shalia actively participated in these searches. They distributed missing person flyers and feigned deep concern, masterfully hiding their involvement in Skylar's disappearance. Shalia Eddy, in particular, maintained a chillingly convincing facade. Her social media posts oscillated between normal teenage chatter and emotional appeals regarding Skylar's whereabouts. "Rest easy, Skylar, you'll always be my best friend," she tweeted upon the eventual discovery of Skylar's remains months later, a twisted and disturbing display of false grief. Rachel Shoaf, though initially composed, began exhibiting signs of psychological distress as time passed. The pressure of maintaining a deceptive front gradually broke her down emotionally, leading to episodes of anxiety and instability. As weeks turned into months with no sign of Skylar, suspicion within the community and law enforcement began shifting toward Rachel and Shalia. Surveillance footage uncovered a critical inconsistency. Skylar had left her apartment complex at 12:30 a.m., not earlier, as the girls had claimed. Further inconsistencies arose from gas station footage and cell phone records, indicating the girls were lying about their whereabouts. The relentless pressure from police questioning finally culminated in Rachel Shoaf's psychological collapse. After a severe breakdown in late December 2012, Rachel confessed everything to authorities on January 3, 2013.
Mon County 911, we have an emergency.
I have an issue with a 16-year-old daughter of mine. I can't control her anymore. She's shooting nuts, she's screaming, she's running through the neighborhood. Give me the phone. Okay, no, this is over. My husband's trying to contain her. Please hurry.
Her confession included horrific details of the crime, finally bringing clarity and devastating confirmation to Skylar's parents and investigators. Rachel subsequently led investigators to the remote site in Pennsylvania, where they discovered Skylar's concealed remains beneath leaves and debris, ending the painful uncertainty but opening a new chapter of grief and disbelief for the Neese family and their community. Meanwhile, Shalia Eddy maintained her facade until police gathered enough evidence from Rachel's confession and forensic analyses to implicate her definitively. On May 1, 2013, nearly 10 months after the murder, Shalia Eddy was arrested, shocking a community that struggled to understand how seemingly ordinary teenagers could commit such a brutal crime. The discovery and subsequent arrests devastated families and shook the close-knit community to its core, revealing a chilling reality. Sometimes the deadliest threats are those hidden behind familiar faces and trusted friendships. Rachel Shoaf's confession on January 3, 2013, sent shockwaves through Star City and the nation. After nearly 6 months of silence and deceit, the truth about Skylar Neese's disappearance was laid bare in a chilling admission of betrayal and murder. Rachel, visibly shaken and emotionally fractured, told investigators the full story. She and Shalia Eddy had lured Skylar out under false pretenses and brutally stabbed her to death. Her confession was surreal. Rachel explained the entire process, from the initial planning stages to the final resting place of Skylar's body. With law enforcement in tow, she led officers into the snow-covered woods near Brave, Pennsylvania. There, beneath leaves and brush, they recovered what remained of Skylar Neese. For Skylar's parents, it was the most devastating confirmation possible, but at least it brought an end to the endless questions. Rachel was immediately taken into protective custody, and her confession triggered a rapid shift in the investigation. While she was now a cooperating witness, Shalia Eddy remained free, unaware that her co-conspirator had unraveled their deadly secret. Investigators knew they had to move carefully. Rachel's confession, while detailed, was not enough to convict Shalia without corroborating evidence. In the following weeks, law enforcement began compiling additional evidence. They revisited the crime scene, analyzed phone records, social media activity, and most importantly, forensic evidence from Shalia's car. Blood traces and DNA consistent with Skylar's were discovered in the trunk and under the carpeting, physical proof that placed Shalia at the scene. To strengthen their case, investigators took a bold step. They wired Rachel Shoaf and had her meet with Shalia, hoping to capture an incriminating statement. However, Shalia remained unerringly calm and evasive. Still, the circumstantial and forensic evidence was mounting, and prosecutors felt confident they had enough to proceed. On May 1, 2013, Shalia Eddy was arrested in a surprisingly calm setting, having lunch with her mother at a local restaurant. Her demeanor, even in handcuffs, was described by officers as disturbingly composed. Meanwhile, Rachel formally surrendered to authorities and was quietly charged. Because both girls were under 18, the details were initially sealed. But what followed was a public unraveling unlike any other. Media outlets scrambled to cover the arrest of two high school girls and the murder of their friend. The community was stunned, not only by the girls' youth but by the methodical cruelty of their crime. Skylar's case had transitioned from a missing persons report to a national headline about teenage sociopathy and betrayal. Dave and Mary Neese, while relieved to know what had happened, now faced the unbearable truth. Their daughter had been murdered by the very people she trusted most. Rachel and Shalia's families were thrust into a storm of shame, confusion, and grief. No one could comprehend how two ordinary, middle-class girls could be capable of such a monstrous act. Still, despite the trauma, a legal process had to unfold. Prosecutors moved to charge both girls as adults due to the gravity of the crime. The Neese family agreed, believing the punishment should reflect the magnitude of the betrayal and violence. West Virginia law supported this approach, and both girls soon found themselves facing the full weight of the justice system. In May 2013, Rachel Shoaf pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in a closed-door hearing. As part of her plea agreement, she agreed to testify truthfully against Shalia Eddy in exchange for a reduced sentence. The court moved forward cautiously, sealing the plea to protect the integrity of the ongoing investigation and ensure a successful prosecution of Shalia. It wasn't until September 2013 that Shalia was formally indicted by a grand jury on one count of first-degree murder. She initially pleaded not guilty, but prosecutors made clear they would pursue the harshest sentence available. As the trial date approached and the evidence piled up, Shalia's defense team began negotiating. On January 24, 2014, Shalia Eddy shocked the courtroom by pleading guilty to first-degree murder. Her cold admission sent chills through those in attendance.
Sheila Eddy, how do you plead to the offense of murder in the first degree of the felony charged in count 3 of the indictment in this case?
Guilty.
Skylar's parents, sitting in the front row, watched in silence as the girl who had once eaten dinner at their table was sentenced to life in prison, with mercy. Under West Virginia law, this meant Shalia would be eligible for parole after 15 years. Rachel's sentencing came shortly afterward, in February 2014. Her courtroom appearance was drastically different. She cried through her statement, expressing remorse and begging for forgiveness. She apologized to the Neese family, her own parents, and even to Skylar herself. Her lawyer emphasized her cooperation, youth, and clean record.
I'm so sorry.
You're welcome.
I don't know if there's a proper way to make this apology, because there are not even words to describe the guilt and remorse that I feel each day for what I've done. The person that did that was not the real me, not the person I am, not what I'm made of, and not what I believe in. I don't think I ever thought this would actually happen. I became scared and caught up in something that I did not want to do. I never realized the gravity of my actions and how many people I've hurt. I hurt the Neese family and those who love Skylar. I hurt my parents and shamed my family. I hurt my extended family and all of my friends who loved me. I hurt my teachers and those who believed in me. I hurt my church family, my community, and those who trusted me. And I hurt my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. May God bring eternal peace to Skylar and the entire Neese family. Again, I'm so sorry, and I pray each day for everyone involved, and I pray each day for forgiveness.
Yes, Rachel Shoaf did tell us where Skylar was. Yes, Rachel Shoaf did cooperate. And Rachel Shoaf also murdered my daughter in cold blood. Skylar would not be where she was if it wasn't for Rachel Shoaf. You said yourself, Your Honor, this is first-degree murder. She should not give any leniency, and she can take her apologies and everything else and sit on it because that's about what they're worth to me and my wife. She has done nothing but make our lives a living hell since this day one. She did cooperate in the end because she knew that it was closing in on her, and yes, she would be caught. That's the only reason she feels remorse. Your Honor, I ask you to give her 40 years and plus if you can. Thank you, sir.
The judge sentenced Rachel Shoaf to 30 years in prison for second-degree murder, with the possibility of parole after 10 years. Though lighter than Shalia's sentence, it was still a powerful statement. Remorse may be recognized, but consequences must be served. The reactions were mixed. Some viewed Rachel's cooperation as a path toward rehabilitation. Others saw both girls as cold-blooded murderers undeserving of leniency. For Skylar's parents, no sentence could undo the pain. But their grief did not end in silence.
It's kind of like, thank God it's over. And, she's getting what she deserves. Judge Claude just made sure of that. Marcia made sure of that. And she'll be in a place where people just like her. Like I said before, there's no closure at all, I don't think. I mean, who knows how my mom works right now. But if you can figure out, let me know. But the only way that there could be closure if they both were in prison. I know they're both in jail right now. One of them's been sentenced, one of them hasn't. After the other one gets sentenced, then we can start worrying about all that. But right now, I don't think it'll ever be closed. My little girl was something you can't close.
Dave and Mary Neese transformed their heartbreak into advocacy. Outraged by how authorities initially handled Skylar's disappearance, they began lobbying for changes in West Virginia's Amber Alert laws. At the time, an alert could only be issued if authorities believed a child had been abducted. Because Skylar had left her home voluntarily, no alert was issued. The Neeses argued that the system was flawed. Had an alert gone out immediately, perhaps Skylar could have been found, or at least justice could have come sooner. Their efforts led to the introduction and eventual passage of Skylar's Law. Signed into law in May 2013, Skylar's Law expanded West Virginia's alert system to include any child reported missing and believed to be in danger, regardless of whether there's evidence of an abduction. It was a monumental victory in Skylar's name, one that could save lives in the future. Years later, Skylar's story is still told. Documentaries, news specials, podcasts, and articles continue to explore the case. In classrooms and courtrooms, her name evokes both heartbreak and purpose. And in the hearts of those who knew her, Skylar is remembered not for how she died, but for the brilliant, passionate, and kind girl she was. Justice was served, but a deeper wound remains. And with each parole hearing, each public reminder, Skylar's parents continue to fight, not just for their daughter's memory, but to make sure no other child suffers the same fate. Skylar Neese is gone, but her voice, her story, and her legacy endure. More than a decade has passed since the brutal murder of Skylar Neese, but the shadows of that night still linger in the lives of everyone involved. Today, the names Rachel Shoaf and Shalia Eddy remain etched into the public's memory as symbols of betrayal and cruelty, two teenagers who committed an unthinkable act against someone who trusted them completely. Rachel Shoaf is currently incarcerated at the Lakin Correctional Center in West Virginia. In 2023, she became eligible for parole after serving 10 years of her 30-year sentence. Her parole hearing drew significant public attention, with supporters and critics of her potential release voicing their opinions. During the hearing, Rachel presented herself as rehabilitated. She had completed multiple educational programs, earned certifications, and reportedly displayed good behavior throughout her incarceration. However, Skylar's family was adamantly opposed. Dave and Mary Neese both testified against her release, emphasizing the permanent loss they suffered and the calculated nature of Rachel's crime. Dave's voice cracked as he told the parole board, "Skylar got no second chance. Neither should they." Ultimately, the board denied her parole, citing the severity of the offense and the emotional toll on the victim's family.
At this time, the board is not granting parole at this time.
Rachel Shoaf's next parole eligibility date is set for 2025. Until then, she remains behind bars, her future uncertain. Shalia Eddy, on the other hand, continues to serve a life sentence with mercy, which allows her to apply for parole after 15 years. Her earliest eligibility will be in 2028. Since her sentencing, Shalia has kept an extremely low profile. Unlike Rachel, she has made no public expressions of remorse and has not participated in interviews, outreach, or educational initiatives. Reports from within the correctional system describe Shalia as distant and largely disconnected from other inmates. For the Neese family, the thought of either girl being released is unbearable. They continue to advocate against their parole and work closely with victims' rights organizations to ensure that Skylar's story is never forgotten. Skylar Nisa's story is one that stays with you, not just because of the cruelty involved, but because of how hauntingly familiar it all feels. 3 girls, high school, sleepovers, inside jokes, trust, and then, betrayal. This wasn't a random act of violence. It wasn't a crime of passion or a tragic misunderstanding. It was calculated, cold, and carried out by people Skylar loved. That reality makes the case so uniquely disturbing, and so important to remember. Skylar's death shattered the illusion that teenage drama is harmless, that close friends are always safe, and that darkness can't exist inside familiar faces. Her story forces us to ask difficult questions. How well do we really know the people closest to us? Are we listening to the subtle cries for help, the tweets, the silence, the sudden shifts in behavior? Her legacy isn't only legal, it's deeply human. Skylar Neese reminds us to pay attention, to speak out, and to trust our instincts. She also challenges us to reflect on the systems we trust to protect our children and whether they are equipped to act fast enough, smart enough, and compassionately enough when something goes wrong. Justice may have been served, but Skylar Nisa's absence will always be felt. Her story is more than a headline, it's a mirror. And what it reflects is a truth many would rather ignore, that the most devastating betrayals often come not from strangers, but from the ones we trust the most. Skylar's voice was silenced. But through her family, her story, and those who choose to remember, her impact continues to echo. And as long as it does, she is not gone.
The truth always rises to the surface, but sometimes when you least expect it. If this story made you think, don't forget to subscribe, like, and turn on notifications. See you in the next case. Stay safe.